It's not surprising that beautiful jewelry and famous stones all share something in common with perfume, with the great perfumes of the world. They each have the ability to tell a story. There's famous stones with wonderful stories that we all know. And then there's that engagement ring that belonged to your grandmother that had a story that only she and her husband understood and knew. So it's not surprising that great jewelry houses across the world have branched out into fragrance. So today, we're going to explore the very first male fragrance from a great jewelry house on the Place Vendôme in Paris. And that would be Van Cleef and Arpels. Stay tuned, and we'll find out how special this fragrance was to me, and if it still carries its cachet today. Today we're going back to 1978. That was a time for me that was very exciting. It was the epicenter of the disco era, and of course there was Studio 54, and here in San Francisco there was Busby's and the Trocadero Transfer and I-Beam and Oil Can Harry's. But this perfume, this fragrance from the house of Van Cleef and Arpels was very special to me. It was the first fragrance I branched out to after I had discovered Chanel Pour Homme, and that would be Van Cleef and Arpels Pour Homme. It is something that really spoke to me, and I considered something for very, very special occasions. And just finding this bottle again reminded me so much of those days. I had my bottle. I got it in '78, and I had it for 30 years. I just got rid of it about 3 or 4 years ago because I ran out. And I was meaning to buy it again because I really, really loved it. But of course, I had a vintage bottle from 1978, so I don't know what this one's going to smell like. Let's get into the unboxing of this particular fragrance. So we will open it up. And Van Cleef and Arpels, of course, was founded in the 1890s and is a premier jeweler in San Francisco, a premier jeweler in Paris, and they're known for incredible jewelry to royalty, and they invented the invisible setting where you can't see the prongs that hold stones into, oh, isn't that beautiful? That hold the stones in necklaces and bracelets and whatnot. So here is the bottle, and as you can see, it really is kind of Art Deco in design, and it hasn't changed one bit in 30 years, and it really is elegant and beautiful. Of course, in the day, in the 70s and 80s, we had these sprayers that were just embedded in the top. So you can see back here, there's the sprayer right there. So a little bit about this fragrance. It was created in 1978, as I said, and it's a leather woody chypre. The nose behind it is Louis Monet of Givaudan. Givaudan is the world's largest flavors and fragrance creator, and they are responsible for many, many fragrances that you and I love. The main accords of this fragrance are aromatic, woody, and spicy. So let's spray it and see if it still smells as wonderful as I recall. Here we go. Okay, it is still beautiful. Not quite the way I remember it, though. Not quite, but it's still a beautiful fragrance. I think it's been reformulated. So the top notes are citrus notes, thyme, basil, juniper, marjoram, tarragon, clove, hay, tobacco, and sage. Now that is a veritable spice rack, if you will, of top notes. And the thing about fragrances, men's fragrances of that time, of the late 70s and early 80s, they were loaded with notes and loaded with heavy-duty power. The mid-notes in this fragrance are jasmine, tuberose, rose, ylang-ylang, geranium, artemisia, and orris root. Now, the mid-notes, of course, are where the flowers are located that come up and mix with those spices in the opening. And there is something, it has a certain cleanness to it that I find surprising. I don't remember that, and of course in those days you didn't have clean scents were not popular, but this has a kind of soapy, clean feeling, but that's fading already. So that's interesting that it goes through this little clean mode. But now I'm getting the tuberose, the ylang-ylang, the rose. The flowers are coming out. So that opening only lasts a little while. All those spices with that little bit of citrus only last just a little while. Now I'm going to come back in about an hour and tell you what the dry down is like. And the dry down will be consisting of a lot of notes. And those are patchouli, vetiver, cedarwood, coconut, leather, oak moss, castoreum, amber, and labdamen. So I'll be back in a minute. So here we are, 2 hours later, and I have to tell you that it has developed into more of what I remember, and that's because of the oak moss and the castoreum. It's a little dirty, and it's a little daring. Fragrance, it starts off very spicy, and it's really delicious, and it's a mix of a little bit of citrus and a lot of spices, and then it's washed with a really, really beautiful soap, kind of a French big bar, that wonderful big bar soap that you find in Paris. And then up come the flowers, and the artemisia and the jasmine and the tuberose in there. The tuberose is never ever too strong. The rose is never too strong. It's just a really beautiful blend of flowers and stays very masculine. And then there's this incredible dry down that has that little bit of dirtiness in it that I really love. And it has a great oak moss, a wonderful oak moss. It really smells wonderful. And I think it does smell a lot like it did back in 1978. So here we are, 4 hours into the fragrance, and I have to tell you, this baby's back. It is what I recall. It just took it a while to get to that place, and I think probably what I did like about the original was the dry down. It really is a beautiful fragrance, and it's very inexpensive, as I said. I think it's I paid $40 for this on Amazon. Now, how does it compare to some others from the house, such as the beautiful Czar? The Czar is the Czar is much bolder, if you can believe. I mean, this one really is a standout, bold, and beautiful fragrance. Then there is the Eau De Czar, and that is more or less a greener version of Czar, and also very, very beautiful. Now, I have to say that these three fragrances from this house are exceptional in my opinion, and I'm really, really happy to have this little collection of jewels from the house of Van Cleef & Arpels. So there you have my take on this wonderful fragrance from Van Cleef & Arpels, Pour Homme. This is Leonard Smith from Sense Memory saying, remember, wear what you love and not what they say you should like.